Once again, happy Saturday, everybody. I'm going to do the craft room. I didn't do as much as I normally do. Like I said before, I just run out of time, but I figured you'd rather see what I've got done than not see the room at all, because so many of our wonderful collections are in this area. So we'll start right here. I have those wonderful handmade oak spice drawers there. And they're sitting on that little white chest that we got at the yard sale last year, I believe. And this is a little vintage bunny right here. You pull him and his arms and legs move. And some wonderful old books and one of my shoe forms. And this sweet little Easter tin sitting on the heart-shaped tin that I use all the time. And of course over here is where I keep some of my CDs, because I like to play music when I'm down here. And I have so many CDs, so that's why I still play them. When I'm upstairs, I play Pandora most of the time. But this is where all my ribbons and things are. So over here, in these cubbies that we got last summer, which is one of my favorite of our last summer finds, I have a lot of our vintage Easter. And right there, I know it's a glare on it, but that is that Peter Cottontail sheet music, the old sheet music that we were lucky enough to find, and John framed it in a vintage frame. And up on the top, of course, all the way across, are some of John's trucks. And a bus. And some of our old watering cans and other treasures hanging from the pegs. John did those shelves and the pegs, gosh, I don't even know how many years ago. But let's start right here on the top. There's a vintage duck planter that is precious. And just a pot of white tulips. And I love this little planter with the bunny and the chick. And these are all vintage planters across here. Just precious. And down on this shelf, some of the tin pieces of Easter. And those two little Thorns English tins, they're embossed, and we've had those forever. And they did come from a yard sale. Those other tin toys, those came from eBay years ago. And I kept my crown out. Down here on the bottom, sitting on one of the mirror trays, there's one of the little Easter carts full of eggs. And this is the bobblehead planter, one of John's favorite. And just some eggs. And this is a vintage bunny egg. I have two of them, two different sizes, gotten at two different times from yard sales. And they're made in Germany. And I kept the old mayonnaise jar. And I had intended to put something in it, but there again, just ran out of time. And there is that sweet old tin. We've had it for, gosh, probably at least 20 years. Or more, maybe. So it's not vintage, but we love it. There's another old vintage planter with some eggs. And there is that super cute tin duck. He's a friction toy. He's sitting on top of the vintage jar. And there's the other wonderful vintage German egg. An old flower frog sitting on books. And here are some of the Russian hand-painted eggs in that basket, Longaberger basket that we got at a yard sale. And another just super cute bunny planter. And the old clock face back there. There's a vintage abacus. A super cute English cottage print. A handmade bird piece that I got on Etsy years ago. Probably when Etsy was first starting out. These two little sweet creamers, well, they're not creamers, they're little tiny pitchers. Those are made in England and they're really old ones. And I brought back the little Hummel monks. We only have the one red. The red was always hard ones to get and super expensive, but look at those sweet faces on these. Just love them. And of course, there was my daddy's Buckeye and my daddy's harmonica and other little vintage sewing treasures that we've picked up through the years. That was an old pin cushion. And all these are sitting on that awesome little china cabinet, English china cabinet that we actually got from England. Took forever to get here, but it was worth the wait. And some vintage silver with some more sewing items and children's utensils in it. And one day, I'll sit down here on a stool and show you all of our vintage Colgate. And there are some more of the little monks there and a couple Toby jugs down there. And this is a vintage barrister case. We brought this back. I believe this is the one that came from Indiana. And across the top, some of our patriotic sand pails and old jars, vintage watering cans, and John's bank globe collection. And more treasures hanging across that peg rack. And vintage plates down on plate stands in this jelly cupboard. There's another child's china cabinet. And there's the globe we got, I can't remember which week, a couple weeks ago maybe. These are bunnies I've had for a long time too, and I just love them. They're sitting on the vintage silver tray. And the wonderful old Bible I got recently. With the resurrection. And why we really celebrate Easter. Precious bunnies. They're creamers. Another bunny I've had forever. And back there, I intend to do a video on all my crumb catchers too. I think Heather Elizabeth would love to see all those up close, especially this Art Deco one. That's Heather Elizabeth from Antique Agenda. If you haven't visited her before, please do. I have mentioned her before because I've learned so much from her. These sweet little birds we got at our last Hallmark store that closed in our area. They're pumpkin seed brand. And I think they are just precious. Look at the cat. And here's that corner shelf. My bust stays there, and that's where I put the sweet little bunnykin set that I got last week. Just have a plant in that. And the old shoe form on a doily. And down there are some of my bisque babies and a couple little celluloid. A couple of my caged ladies right here. This was my grandma's picture. And down here are some supplies for crafting. And some of my old photographs in here. This is where a lot of our children's collectibles are. The little irons, little kitchen pieces, little tiny funnels. That is a super old cup and saucer and little silverware and more child's dishes. And the little washboard collection and the little wash tub. There's a little croquet set in there and bowling. Just lots of wonderful goods. And on this piece, I have a lot of our sewing collectibles. Another vintage toll tray. And another smaller one right there. Some old bracelets on this hand. And this piece right here, John made out of an old cabinet door and put a lot of old pieces and a couple little new pieces on it. Some of my vintage blue and white, and there's where I put that Sweet Cobalt's child set that we got last week. Here is another piece of denim, like those bunnies in the living room. I have a teeny tiny bunny, but he got put up for Christmas and Halloween. I'll find him in a box somewhere, I'm sure. But there's lots of syrup pictures, vintage syrup pictures, and sugar shakers in here too. And lots of old buttons, which y'all know I can't resist. I'll show those in a separate video sometime too. Look at that one, still in its original pack. And up there I have the Santa and the Santa lamp that John got me years ago. And another cage lady. And over the door, there's a jar full of darners. There's some old bowling, thread spools, and old lace. And a vintage silver pitcher or coffee pot. And another piece of our old stained glass. Lots of old ribbons, not old ribbons, new ribbons right here that I use. Well, some of them I've had a long time because y'all know how we are, some of us that love ribbons. You've had them for a long time. You don't always get around to using them all. And there's my little Paris area. And my granny and my mama. The one on the right is my granny, and that was my mama. Like I've said, this area stays a mess because I'm always digging something out and it doesn't always get put back where it should. I love these drawers. We've had those a long time, and I love this little cabinet. And up there, more vintage pieces, and that is an ironstone floral picture from England. Lots of old laces, Scrabble pieces. And this shelf we got at a yard sale, and it's wonderful old pine. And back here, just more collections. In these cupboards, there's the lambs. I didn't get those out, but John has a bank collection in there and in this little cabinet. I'll show those too at some point. And up here is where I put all the Wizard of Oz Ray Dunn and a few other Wizard of Oz collectibles. And John did this piece with that Just super unusual, beautiful brass doorknob set. And just some other collectibles across there. Not old, but I love them. And then right there, those are a lot of my little vintage dogs. And then these super sweet little vintage plaques. More buttons and jars. All the way up there. And more of John's trucks. And lots of vintage toys. And that's all of the craft room tour. I hope you have a blessed and wonderful Easter. I hope you get to spend it with family and friends. We love you guys so much and appreciate y'all being here for us and all the sweet comments y'all make. It means the world to me, and I tell John about a lot of them, and he really is. He's always been proud that I have this channel, and he's like me. He loves sharing our home and our gardens with y'all. So love and blessings from me and John and baby boy, and happy almost Easter. Till the next time, bye-bye.